And I believe that we are streaming. Yes. It says excellent connection. There's people waiting already because you guys are awesome. So, hello to Reese Sargent, Jerome, Spud, Sammy, Grinoldi. Let's see, anybody else? Vaxer's here, Owen, Root Verani. What's going on, everybody? That's right, it begins.
So I'm trying to find a way to use Bluetooth headphones with my Go XLR without delay. So I'm looking into some devices that are going to allow me to do that, because I'd rather just wear my Beats or AirPods instead of the huge cans that I have on my ears right now.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Like I have these headphones, and I love these headphones. But I don't like wearing headphones very much. So I totally get what you're saying with AirPods, but I don't think you're going to find Bluetooth that doesn't have a delay. You know what I mean?
There'll be a short delay. The new what is it, like M2, I think it is, whatever the new chip that is in the AirPods and the Beats. It's super low latency. But you need to find a transceiver that also supports that codec. So like not every Bluetooth transceiver is going to support that super low delay, low latency audio codec. So I'm gonna have to do some research and see if there's anything out there, because having an echo in my ear, I'll vomit. It's funny because if I have an echo in my ear that's a little bit off, I start talking like this, and then I get like this. It's like this weird thing where my
it's
my
not
voice
it's not weird.
down.
That's normal. That happens to everybody.
Okay, it's weird because when it happens, it's weird.
It is. Yeah, it's weird. It feels like you feel like you're just so dumb that you can't get the words out because I don't know.
You feel drunk,
right? So
it's
what
weird.
what I would say is the only way to avoid that is just don't. If you're just wearing AirPods, are these pros?
No.
Okay,
they're
so
standard.
You're gonna hear yourself just fine. Just don't monitor yourself.
Yeah, I think that. Yeah, that's so. Yeah. I don't know what I'm trying to say. I've started 3 sentences there, and I don't know what to say.
Is there an echo that you're hearing?
It's habit for me, right? Like you do something one way for so long, and you can't switch from it. Like I've been monitoring myself for 10 plus years podcasting, right? So trying to, like, when I first got the Go XLR and there was that weird audio delay until they patched it out, I was like, fine, I just won't monitor myself. And then I couldn't do it. After about, I don't know, a couple days of trying, I was like, fine, I'll deal with the delay, and hopefully the patch comes out soon. That said, where's the stupid mute mode patch for the cough button? Like that was promised like 18 months ago, and they still don't have it.
I don't remember what it was going to do.
So the little sneeze button, it would be, you'd push it to mute your mic, and then you'd push it to unmute your mic so that you could get your mic off of one of the channels.
Oh, yes, because I always have my mic turned up all the way. So absolutely. I forgot about that.
I'm going to have to ping him again. I actually got their community manager before he left. I asked a bunch of questions, and he was like ridiculously rude and condescending in chat. No. And I'm like, whoa, I've been beta testing your software and spending my own time submitting bug reports. So I'm done with that. And I just stopped. And then the next week he announced that he was leaving. It's like, okay, maybe that was the straw that broke the camel's back or something.
Yeah. All right. Well, real quick, we both have cats. There's your Stadia Cats update. I suppose that we should probably start recording. Are you ready?
Almost.
Okay, he's not ready. So I'm going to talk about cats.
I'm going to do this.
Climb around.
Do this.
And are pathetic.
Cats are cute.
Marvel will reach out to me with his little hand and go like pet me. Oh, look at that. Is that Juno or Tank?
That's Tank. He's gorgeous. He's such a handsome little kitty.
Aw.
It's funny now when I pick him up and I put him on my shoulder and I hold his butt and I pet him. What I'll do is I'll start rubbing his ear, and then the paw that is on the opposite side of where he is, he puts it on my cheek and holds my cheek like he's hugging me. It's
Aw.
like the cutest thing ever.
Listen, Lloyd, you're missing out on some sweet influencer nonsense by not having a specific an Instagram account for Juno and
For
Tank.
right, I could. It's funny. I posted when I got Juno, I think it was. I posted a bunch of like portrait mode photos, a bunch of them in a row, and I got contacted by a couple pet store companies that wanted to partner with me. They wanted to send me a bunch of products and have it on my Instagram, and I have like no followers on Instagram, so it's like, okay, this is probably a scam. So I'm not even gonna go forward with it. But I that made me laugh a lot, actually.
That's funny. That's very funny. All right, are you ready now?
Let's do it.
All right, I'm gonna hit record on the button.
And Am I bright enough today? Sorry.
Delete.
I didn't realize.
Your camera looks great.
I keep forgetting. I can't hear music from you, so I keep forgetting that you're just doing stuff in the background.
Yeah, I couldn't remember how to start the show. Like my brain, I tell you, I'm struggling to keep everything straight. So I couldn't remember how I start the show. So here we go. Welcome back, everyone, to Stadia Cast. I'm Bill. That's Lloyd. Lloyd, how's it going today?
It is going fantastic. I am drinking a fine cup of maple bacon coffee from Bones Coffee Company. Not an ad, but I love the coffee so much, and I have to keep talking about it every time I'm having it.
Maple bacon coffee. That doesn't sound... Well, I don't know that there's anything that could sound more Canadian, but also not all... I mean... I don't know, maybe poutine. You throw some poutine in there.
Poutine. Ooh, that's gross. But do you like the taste of maple syrup?
I do, and so I like the taste of bacon, and I like the taste of breakfasty foods kind of mixed together. So I'm sure it's fine, but it's kind of weird that you're drinking it.
It's a really awesome dark roast, and it has a little bit of the sweetness from like maple syrup, and it has a little bit of the smokiness from the bacon just on top. Like it doesn't taste like bacon, but it has kind of those aspects. And the only thing my wife asked for her birthday this year was maple bacon coffee, because she loves it so much, and it's ridiculously expensive to ship from the US to Canada because it's a US company. Okay. So I was like, okay, we're gonna load her up with a bunch of bacon coffee, and it's really good, very good.
There you go. Well, this week in Maple Bacon Coffee is coming back next week, but today we're going to talk about cloud gaming, Google Stadia, and all that stuff. Before we get actually started with the real show, we do record this show live on Sunday mornings at 10 a.m. over on our YouTube channel. So if you're listening to this in your favorite podcast player, then head on over to youtube.com/StadiaCast and click on all of the YouTube things that people always ask you to click on. And that way you get notified when we go live. If you want to support the show, there's a couple of ways that you can do that. You can use the super chat feature to make sure that we see your comment. Usually there's a couple of hundred people here when we're recording live, and it makes it easier for us to pick out those comments if you're using the super chat feature. And if you want to get access to some of the videos earlier, as well as a bunch of other bonuses for becoming members of the YouTube channel, then there's a join button right down below. As always, we start the episode off with what have we been playing. So Lloyd, what have you been playing, man?
I've been apparently playing all the things. So last week we were talking, it's like, oh, it's been so busy, haven't had time, blah, 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 blah. I've been playing just a crap ton of Marvel's Avengers. So Marvel's Avengers just got the big version 1.3 patch. So there was at launch just a suite of bugs. And this patch that came out on all of the platforms fixed over 1,000 bugs. So wow. on the Stadia version, there's still bugs. They haven't fixed all the issues that I have with the game. There's one particular issue that is really bad. So there's two factions so far in the game. There's like your shield faction, and then there's the inhuman faction. So every day or every 12 hours, I think you have 8 tasks. So when you complete them, you get faction XP, and you get the little materials that you need to upgrade your ISO 8s, or no, your artifacts actually. So really hard to get stuff, but you can do it every day, and it's great. Except on my version on Stadia, it's been locked, so they show as checked off, and every day it changes to new tasks, but I can't complete them because they're already checked off. So that is still a bug. But every other issue that I had with the game has been fixed. All the stuttering slowdown has been fixed. A lot of the crazy, like you go into a room and there's 6 drones flying around and they all target you instantly and you die. That's done. So I've been playing a lot of Avengers. I have all 6 characters up to level 50. I have my main, which is Thor. I have him to power level 141. The max is 150, and it takes an immense amount of items to upgrade the rest of your equipment to get up to power level 150. And I'm just absolutely loving the game. I'm ready for more content. They dropped in the first what is it? I guess they call it a raid, but it's like a 15 floor vault that you can go into, and it's really interesting. They changed the way that it works, where when you fall, one of your other characters takes over, and once you're through all 4 of your characters, you've basically progressed as far as you can, and it's game over. So they're adding like end game content. My only problem is all my other level 50 characters are all power level like 30 or 32 because I haven't spent 15 hours gearing them up. So I'm going to have to go through and gear them up as well. But man, Marvel's Avengers is so good. And I understand people's problems with it. They're like, oh, you're just running the same campaigns over and over and over again. And what I keep telling people is, remember Destiny 1 when it first came out. You had already played all of Destiny 1 in the beta, essentially, because you had all of the missions that were in the beta were basically the only missions that were in the shipping version, except for one other planet. And I had played that over and over and over and over again. And eventually they fixed it. They put more content. They did more things, a lot more variety. And I think that's where we are with Marvel's Avengers. But I looked at my playtime, and for someone that doesn't have a lot of time playing video games, I've spent a just ridiculous amount of time over the last week playing Marvel's Avengers. I'm up over 60 hours, which I was at like 30 or something last week. So I've spent a lot of time over the last little bit playing, and I think most of it was just last weekend, spending like eight hours on Sunday, I think it was, playing Avengers, or maybe it was Monday, something like that. Anyway, but yeah, Marvel's Avengers is very good, and I'm really enjoying it.
Have you been getting into any of the multiplayer stuff? Because I know it's a game where it's, you're supposed to be able to play multiplayer and do, like you mentioned this raid. But then it feels like you're talking about it as if it's a solo experience. Can you talk about that a bit?
Yeah, so all the content in the game can be completed single player with 3 computer controlled characters that come with you, or multiplayer with a combination of AI and real people. I've only done one multiplayer match. I really wish this game was crossplay, because all of my my real friends that play this game are playing on other platforms, so I can't play with them. And there just doesn't appear to have a large amount of Stadia players that I can see. Like when I'm looking at my friends list, there may be one other person that's playing Marvel's Avengers. So I hope Square Enix has I don't know, crossplay on some whiteboard somewhere to talk about the Stadia whiteboard again. I hope there's some whiteboard, and crossplay is something that they're planning, just because it is really tough to get enough players on Stadia. That said, what I'd love to do is one night or weekend plan a multiplayer a stream, and get a bunch of community members to contact me, meet up before streaming, and then do a nice big like 4-player stream with some of the community members. Just because I'd love to play more multiplayer. I just personally don't know anybody that is playing the game on Stadia.
Yeah, it's weird because like you and I have these insanely large friend lists on Stadia, because we said, here's our names, and everybody was sending us requests and stuff. And so if there's anybody out there that would have seen a lot of people playing this game, it would be you, because
Yeah.
you have a large friends list. But you're just saying you're not seeing people playing this particular game.
Not a lot, not a lot. But
Yeah.
to be fair, I don't I'm playing on my Chromecast. I rarely ever bring up the Stadia menu to look
Well,
at
that's
what
true.
people are doing. But I'm looking on my friends list right now, and it has 15 people online, and 0 of them are actually playing a video game. So, yeah, I'm not seeing anybody playing Avengers
I
right
don't
now
even
either.
understand how that works. How does that work? What are people doing?
Sitting on the on like stadia.google.com and Chrome, I guess,
I don't
is what's
know.
happening. But yeah.
All right. So before we get to the other stuff, excuse me, that you've been playing, I want to talk a little bit about, excuse me, the only game that I played this week. Well, okay, that's not true. I played. We did a trial in ESO yesterday, which was super fun. So hello to my trial team. But the only other game that I played this week was Uno. I got a review copy of Uno, and I sat down and I played it, and I haven't even tried it with the controller yet. I do need to do that. I've been just playing it with the mouse because it's a card game and you just click on things. That game is great. The animations are really, really good. Lloyd and I are going to record a multiplayer first look sometime in the near future, so keep an eye out for that. Um, but it's pretty cool. Like, you just, like, I didn't have any trouble getting a game. I said queue me up, and within, I don't know, a minute, I was in a match with another actual person and I think it was 2 other people and a bot. And then
Right.
halfway through the match, this was really weird. Halfway through the match, we had our fourth person join the match and replace the bot, um, which was really kind of like, I don't know how I feel about that. Like, if I'm queuing up and then suddenly you know, I get into the game and I've got 17 cards in my hand, or the opposite, I have 1 card and it's the winning thing. Like, that doesn't feel good to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm not sure how I feel about, players joining mid game, or I hope that there's a setting that I can check, and I don't think that there is because the settings are very bare bones, but I hope that there's a setting that I can check that says, don't put me in a game mid game. But whatever. The animations are great. It's Uno. It's fun. I haven't tried the Dark Uno add-on pack yet, but I'll make sure that I check that out so I can talk about it next week. But that's
The
the only game that
dark
I've played this week, and I've had fun with it.
Dark Uno add-on pack. I haven't seen that one. I saw the what is it, Uno Flip or
Yeah,
whatever
well, that's the one
was
I
on
was
there.
talking about. Uno
Oh,
Flip.
okay.
Yeah. So the
I
way
was
that
like,
that works is that each card has 2 abilities on it, and you can do you can drop a flip card, and then all of those cards become like the dark versions of themselves. So instead of draw
oh,
4, it's like draw 5 and lose a turn, and that kind of stuff. And I haven't
oh,
tried
okay.
that yet.
Yeah, I bought the full pack as well because I didn't want to miss out on any content if I was playing multiplayer. And I tried it once and I was like, this is insane. And I went back just to playing the normal stuff. I also played Uno last night for about an hour before bed. What a fast and fun and awesome game. But the one thing that always strikes me about Uno is so much luck based more so than
Hmm.
skill based for the most part. So you can go 15 games without winning just because you're unlucky. And then all of a sudden you're winning 3 in a row just because you like I got a hand dealt to me yesterday where I had a yellow one, a yellow miss a turn, and then every other card in my hand was all change the color or change the color and pick up 4 cards. So the first card that came around was yellow. So I put my 1 down. It went around 1 more round. So I missed a turn. And then I played out the rest of my hand just by playing the color change stuff. And I'm like, okay, that's a way to win, I guess. Very much luck based, but that's part of the fun because it's no, there's no anger and there's no stressing. It's just you're just playing the game, and if you lose, you lose. If you win, you win. It's a perfect quick pick up and play game for Google Stadia.
Yeah, and I think that it's also a good way. You get on voice chat with somebody, and you're just kind of shooting the breeze while you play the game. I think it's the perfect kind of game for that. I'm going to say the
Yeah.
same thing about Uno that I said, and I think I have already said this on the show before, but I'm going to say the same thing about Uno that I said about Monopoly. These should be free games, and they should sell skins for
Yeah.
actual money, because way more people would buy them or would play them if they were free games, and then they would be more likely to be like, oh, look, there's the new World of Warcraft Uno. I'm gonna go ahead and buy the themed pack for that. Oh, and then there's a new Star Wars movie coming out. They can or a new Avengers movie, to build on your theme. They could do a Black Widow Uno thing, or a Black Widow Monopoly thing, to kind of
Sure.
get people to keep buying skins for the game. And I think it would make so much more money, and there would be a lot more people playing. I think that because I think that Uno and Monopoly, while I'm not a huge fan of the board game Monopoly,
Right.
digital Monopoly is actually pretty fun. I'm absolutely going to admit that, and I'm sure that there are people in my Discord who are going to use this against me. But digital Monopoly it's not the travesty that board game Monopoly is. So I think that both of those would benefit from that.
100%. Yeah, like the game is only $10, so it's not like going free to play would be a huge leap for them. It's not like
Mm-hmm.
this is a $60 title that they then have to hope that enough whales will come by and spend over the $60 to make up for the people that aren't spending. But yeah, on Stadia it would be perfect. You have the base game free, but the only way that you can get it is if you buy a DLC, because Stadia doesn't do free to play yet.
Right, like a $3 skin.
Exactly. And hope that people want to play the Rayman stuff or the Rabbids stuff. Like the Rabbids cards are crazy. There's a bunch of new cards that are added. Like all these skins add new cards and new play mechanics. That would be a really, really great way for them to get this out there for more people. This game is crossplay, I believe, right? So
I have no idea.
I think it is. I'm looking for right now, and I can't find confirmation of that. But I believe it's cross play. But I can't find it right
There's
now.
a
So don't
couple
quote me on
hundred
that.
people in chat. If one of you guys could let us know if Uno is crossplay, so that we don't slow things down, that would be awesome. I would say another reason that I want it to be free is, like, they could really capitalize, especially on Stadia. This is a huge thing. Ubisoft could really capitalize on the fact that sooner rather than later, everybody's going to be locked up in their houses again, and there's going to be a lot of people who don't have a console. And, like, I would like to be able to play a board game, like, with my mom, who
Right.
is not in my bubble, because she interacts with people that I don't interact with, and so responsibly we are staying away from each other. But we could easily sit down. Like, she doesn't have a console for us to play on, but I don't want to ask her, hey mom, why don't you buy $15 for this game to play 2 or 3 times with us? But if she tried it for, if there was a way to play it for free, but maybe only the host had to own the game or something like that, I think that that would really push a lot of sales of this game as well.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It looks like Uno is not cross-play. The one I was thinking of was the old iOS and Android version. You could cross-play with the mobile and PC. So that must be where I got my signals mixed. This would be a perfect game for cross-play support as
Yes.
well.
Everything needs to be cross-play all of the time. All right, so
Exactly.
we talked about Uno. We've talked about Avengers. You've also been playing WWE a little bit, Lloyd.
Yeah, I bought a copy of WWE 2K Battlegrounds on Stadia. I was really kind of trying to figure out where I want to get this game. Uh, PlayStation would have made sense because that's where my kids play. But where I love to play is on Stadia. So I picked up a version on Stadia. I picked up the deluxe edition, which gives you the base game, which is $40. It gives you $10 in credit, and it gives you a bunch of DLC characters that are only available in that deluxe set. And I jumped in and started playing it. I put up my first look yesterday. You can go check that out if you want to watch me play about a half hour of this game. But man, I really, really, really love it. I'm a big wrestling fan. We've talked about it on the show before. I watch the pay-per-views with my kids, or my daughter mostly, my son sometimes. And I love wrestling games, but the games I really loved were the N64 era wrestling games because they were more arcade beat 'em up style. They weren't a beat 'em up, but it was more arcadey than the simulation stuff that came out in the PlayStation 2 era and all the way up. So when I found out that 2K Games was making something that was more arcadey, I immediately got super interested and super pumped. And the game itself is incredibly fun. You're playing with up to, I think the base game at launch has 70 characters in it,
Wow.
70 actual WWE superstars, and it's you're basically playing with your favorite characters in super deformed look. Like you have you're basically a triangle with feet and huge heads, and you are playing wrestling, but an old school wrestling game. It's been so much fun, and the best part about the game is when you get it, you only have about 10 characters, but if you play through the story mode, it unlocks characters, and every single match that you complete, whether you win or lose, you get the in-game credit, and then you can use that to go to the toy store thing, which the store is based like a toy store with all the all the unearned characters. They look like they're in like blister packs, like you're buying an action figure from the mall.
Cool.
And then you buy it, they punch out of it, and then next thing you know, you have Stone Cold Steve Austin or Andre the Giant or Hulk Hogan or any of the newer wrestlers like Kevin Owens and Shinsuke Nakamura and all the female wrestlers. So you can basically play the game how you want. There's a bunch of unlockable superpowers, a bunch of unlockable battlegrounds, which are the arenas that you fight in. All of the battlegrounds have their own kind of like weird stuff that's happening. So the New York one has like fire on the ground. So if you pick someone up and throw them into the fire, they take a bunch of damage. I've seen videos of some of the other ones, like you're in like a Florida swamp, and you can actually take people and throw them out the right side of the ring, and they get eaten by this huge crocodile, and they take a bunch of damage. The game itself is just so much fun. It's $40 for the base version. And it's crossplay, so you can play with every other version out there. So there's no reason why picking up on Stadia will be a detriment if you like to play games on Stadia. The game itself is great. The game looks and plays fantastic. It is very low resolution, I'm finding. So it's a budget title, so that doesn't really surprise me. But it's definitely not 4K. It's 1080p being blown up to 4K. Streaming to me through my Chromecast Ultra. So I was hoping things would be a little bit clearer, but it turns out that's not the case.
So I guess my question is, do you think like they made the Switch version and then they just ported that Switch version to all of the other systems?
That could be it, or they just on their design doc they said we're targeting 1080p and that's it. They left it there because I don't believe it looks any better on PlayStation 4 Pro or Xbox One X or Stadia. Like they all the videos that I've watched, they have like a little bit of like, I don't know, blurriness to it. You can tell that they're being blown up a little bit, but the game itself is so much fun. I hear the story mode gets a little bit ridiculous, so your mileage may vary, but this would be a fun game to play with your friends. And it's a game that's going to be just ridiculously fun in like 4-player local co-op. So I need to get a couple more Stadia controllers, and I need to get some more Chromecasts because this is a game that I'd love to jump into with my kids playing on the big TV in the basement. It's It's ridiculous fun, and the best part about it, it comes with 70 characters, so you can unlock who you want. If you don't like that character, you don't have to. But they're going to be patching in another, I think, 70 characters. So there's going to be
What?
well over 100 characters in the game, and it's all free DLC. You just have to
Wow.
use your in-game currency to buy them, or you can also buy premium currency if you want to take the shortcut to unlock them that way. So really fun game. I'm really enjoying it, and I can't wait to jump back in and punch people with a motorcycle, because apparently that's a thing that one of the characters does. So I want to unlock that character and do that because that sounds ridiculous.
All right, I've got one more question about WWE. I have never. Okay, when I was, I don't know, in grade school, I was a big fan of WWF wrestling.
Hmm. Yep.
Um, by the time WWE came out, I didn't even know what it was. So, all of the wrestlers that I know would be Roddy Piper, Hulk Hogan, Andre the Giant, the Iron Sheik, all of those very
Right.
offensive characters by modern standards.
Yeah.
So are those 1980s WWF characters in this as well?
Some of them are. At launch, there's Shawn Michaels, there's Andre the Giant, there's Hulk Hogan, there's Sergeant Slaughter, there's The Undertaker, there's Yokozuna. Excuse me. Sorry, I choked. There's Yokozuna. There's The Rock, which was kind of at the era where it went from WWE or WWF to WWE. And with the 70 characters that are coming, I'm sure there's going to be more of the kind of like old school wrestlers because they're like the WWE roster just isn't that huge. So
Yeah.
I'm thinking that there's going to be a lot more content. And a lot of the characters have alternate styles as well. So if you buy the deluxe edition, you get 3 versions of Stone Cold Steve Austin, play exactly the same, but you have the first version, which him with his leather kind of like vest on with like the skull on the back and Austin 316 on it. But then there's also versions of him with just jeans. All the characters seem to have stuff like that as well. So, oh yeah, Jake the Snake. Thanks, Roman. That's the other character I was trying to think of, but I couldn't place it. So Jake the Snake's in the game as well. So there are a bunch of old school wrestlers, and then there's a bunch of new school wrestlers, and then there's the wrestlers that have been in WWE for what seems like 80 years. So, and they're still wrestling, so they're in there as well. So I think there's enough content for people that are old wrestling fans, new wrestling fans, and everybody in between.
All right, let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk all about the news. Save. I'm just going to save what we've got so far. File, save project as. Is this 76?
Yes.
I think it is.
I want to say yes.
I want to say yes as well.
Yep.
So that's what I'm going to say.
76.
All right.
Fry Mankind is in the game, and I think there's alternate costumes for Mick Foley as well. So there's so much content in this game. I can't wait to play through and unlock more of it.
There's a super dino right there. You got a super dino. All right, let's hit the news. And we're back. Let's talk about all of the news that is. And I got to say, there's not a lot of news this week, which is fine because we had Lloyd had a lot to talk about for what he played this week. One of the pieces of news that jumped out at me, and I sat down yesterday and I tried to record a video about this, but my brain is just very, very dumb right now. I got a bad case of the dumb brain. And I could not get the words to come out of my mouth. So I always do better when I'm actually talking to somebody about a thing. And that's this new Chromecast. And, the reason that I saw it was because you tweeted something about it. And I was like, oh, okay, let me look at the remote. And it just got me thinking about this remote, this new Chromecast, which is Android TV powered. And it comes with a remote, and I know that I've talked about it on the show before, but I think that this is Stadia's Trojan horse into everybody's living room. Right now, in my house, we have a whole bunch of Chromecasts, and I'm really the only one that likes using them. my son will use his to play Stadia, but other than that, if it doesn't have a remote, nobody in the house wants to use it. Like my wife will, we've like our bedroom TV is a Roku smart TV, but we already had an Apple TV, so we have those two remotes, and my wife will kind of toggle between those two things. She'll either pick up the remote or she'll pick up the Apple remote. Most of the time, we try and avoid the Apple remote because it's like the worst remote on the planet. It's awful.
It is. It is.
It's real bad. But anyway, we try and avoid that remote at all costs. When I sit down, I just yell at the Google machine, and next thing I know, I'm watching the thing that I want to watch. And if somebody walks into the room, I say, "Hey, pause," and it pauses. But nobody else in my house likes using the Chromecast with it because it doesn't have an interface and it doesn't have a remote. The big problem for this is that people sit down, they don't always know what they want to watch. And so unless you know what you want to watch, you can't sit down and, tell like with your voice to the Google Home to watch this because you're not sure what it is. And a lot of people like to browse around. And that's where a remote comes in handy. They want to be
100%.
able to pick up the remote and look through the interface. Well, if this has a remote, then it's going to have an interface. And if it has an interface, well, first off, if it has a remote, people are going to be much more likely to use it, I think. And if it has an interface, then there can be a little button on there for Stadia. And that means people are going to look at that and they can just advertise right on the screen, hey, here's this new game that just came out, and you can play this on your Chromecast, which I think is called Project Sabrina. So I think that this is their Trojan horse into it. And the last point that I'll make is that if this has a remote, that means it has Bluetooth. And if it has Bluetooth, it can use a Bluetooth controller. So you could essentially start playing Stadia with without having to buy anything from Stadia, other than obviously the game that you want to play. What do you think, Lloyd?
100%. I'm like you. I need a controller, or I need a remote in my hands. I had the first Chromecast, and I'm like, well, this is dumb. I want to just turn it on, and I want to go through content, and that's not what the device is. And I know some people love that. Some people live on their phones, and that's all they use for a computer is their phone. But for me, I like having a menu going through and stuff like that. So when I heard that this one's going to have remotes, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna buy a bunch of them, because if the rumored price of like $50 or $60 is true, I'm going to buy multiple of these so I can have a Chromecast on pretty much every TV. But your point of Stadia being in the interface is great. Like, can you imagine you turn on your TV, you go to input whatever for your Chromecast, and right at the top of the pages, play Cyberpunk 2077 now on Google Stadia, and then you click the button. If you don't have a Stadia account, it shows you a video of what the game's about. It says, hey, click here if you want to buy a controller, or here's a special deal for a Stadia pack, and you hit a button. It's all tied into your address and your credit card that's already on Google's servers, and they say, hey, here's a deal for Chromecast owners. Get 3 months of Stadia Pro and a Stadia controller for $50. You hit the button. 3 days later, you have a controller in your house and you're playing whatever games you want to play. Like, they can directly advertise to people on their TV, on their big 60-inch television sets. They can show once you have a controller, there could be demos baked into it. It's like, hey, this game just dropped. Play a 30-minute demo or a 10-minute demo here, and then hit a button to buy it if you want to buy it. It's just a really great way to get into people's houses. Having a remote there is important, because then it's a device that's going to be used for multiple things. The fact that there's a Netflix button on it and a YouTube button on it is great, because then people can use it for multiple things. I like the idea of this device being more than just a catcher for video streams that you're throwing at it. I think that could be huge, and if they lay things out properly in the interface, and they really like surface Stadia as being a thing, I think this could lead to many Stadia controller purchases, and then, you know, people just getting into it. And I think that could be huge. And if they lay things out properly in the interface, and they really surface Stadia as being a thing, I think this could lead to many Stadia controller purchases, and then, you know, people just getting into it. And I think that could be huge. And if they lay things out properly in the interface, and they really surface Stadia as being a thing, I think this could lead to many that would also obviously lead into many Stadia game purchases, and it just it gives them a console in someone's house where Stadia really isn't a console; it's a console in the cloud. But it gives them that interface and that like in your face advertising every time someone turns on the device and wants to watch Netflix or Amazon Prime or whatever.
Yeah, and I absolutely, I will say this: I don't like that it's a white. I wish that it were black. I know you don't see
Yeah.
the actual device, but you see the remote, and I would prefer it be a black remote. So hopefully it comes in. I just like my electronics to be dark for some reason. I
Yeah.
don't know why.
The leak has white, I think it's like a dark blue, a pink, and some other color. Like there's other color
Okay.
options, but I don't think black is one of them, and I'd rather have a black one as well because
Well, dark is fine. I just don't want it to be white because white just stands out, and I just
yeah.
don't like it. But I didn't realize that that came in other colors as well. I
The
do.
white makes it look like this, which is some weird remote that came with a light bulb that I had that could change colors, and I'm like, who would want this on their table? Like, it just looks horrible. I agree with you. Having a white remote or a white controller, white controllers are fine, but white remotes, I think, just get dirty because they're always in your hands.
Yeah, but controllers are always in your hands. I was always worried about that back in the Wii era, about the controllers getting grimy
Oh yeah,
looking. But I
yeah.
never had an issue with that. Like, I think it depends on what material it's made out of, if it's porous or not.
Mhm,
But I think that this is huge. Now, you mentioned price on this, saying
mhm.
$50. I don't believe that. I don't believe that they're gonna. Okay, so maybe they'll have a $50 version. I think that that'll be the 1080p version. I think if you're getting a 4K version, that's going to be 160, 100 and something, like it'll be a much higher price, because right now, if you go to buy a 4K Roku, how much does that cost? How much does a 4K, well, Apple stuff is always more expensive anyway, but a
Mhm.
4K Roku, how much does that cost right now? Does anybody know in chat? That'd be awesome if they did. Um,
Yeah.
$50 seems way too cheap.
I
I
I think
certainly
what
am
it
not going to
is,
complain, but still.
I think like the GPUs and the SoCs that they'd be using in this device, they all support 4K by default now, just because it doesn't pay to have multiple versions of those chipsets anymore because things have just progressed that far. The leak showed, I think it was like an Amazon listing or maybe it was a Best Buy listing where the MSRP was $60, but the actual price in the thing was $49.99. And I'm taking that with a grain of salt. I don't think it's going to be that cheap, and it's definitely not going to be that cheap up here in Canada. But if it's under $100, I'm going to buy a couple of them for sure because I'd like to have one on my streaming rig, but I also like to have one on my big TV, and then I can take my CCU and put it somewhere else, so I can have multiple places where I can connect my Stadia controller and play games.
It's people in chat are saying, yeah, you can get it $50 for a Amazon Fire Stick that's 4K. You can get
That's right.
£40 in the UK for a 4K Roku. So I guess I'm just out of touch. I haven't bought one of these things in a long time. So
Mhm.
that's probably the real reason for that.
It's not really out of touch. It's just not accounting for technology moving forward a little bit,
Yeah.
where pretty much everything that comes now, like you can do 4K on a little what is it, Raspberry Pi now. Like you can do multiple 4K screens on the Raspberry Pi 4A or whatever. You can connect two micro HDMI and have two 4K screens on this little tiny computer that's the size of a credit card. So things have progressed a little bit.
You know, I'm gonna call an audible and go a little bit out of order. We're talking about how making a change like this, which it doesn't really seem like it's about Stadia, can be about Stadia. There's an official blog over at blog.google.com, obviously, and if you go there, you can see that they're talking about Chromebooks a little bit. And in that, if you scroll down, they talk about Stadia and GeForce Now running on Chromebooks. They're trying to use this in order to sell Chromebooks. And I know that there's going to be people who are like, why are they talking about GeForce Now? Because they're trying to sell Chromebooks, and they want people to buy a Chromebook If that means it's because they are using GeForce Now, then there you go. If it means it's because they're getting doing Stadia, then there you
Yep.
go. But here's what they had to say on this. They said playing high quality video games on your Chromebook is now easier than ever. With Stadia, you can instantly stream and play games like PUBG, Destiny 2, and more on your Chromebook without waiting for installation, downloads, or updates. Chromebook users also get 3 free months of Stadia Pro for free by going to a website. I forget what it is, but
Yep.
like Lloyd and I both took advantage of that, which was awesome. And then if you
Yep.
scroll down a little bit more, they've got this new thing where they are certifying that certain controllers work with Chromebook, which is really, really good. So here's what they have to say. Pick up your perfect teammate for gaming on Chromebooks with our Works with Chromebook certified controller. Take control of Stadia gameplay with the Stadia controller, or try out the Logitech F710 and F310 wireless gamepads to play games from the Play Store on your Chromebook. So you're going to start seeing these icons on packages of video game controllers that say works with Chromebook. And
Hmm.
I think that that's going to help push people towards Stadia, because a lot of people buy Chromebooks and they buy them not necessarily or not with gaming in mind, but they end up picking up these things, and then they're like, oh look, I got 3 free months of Stadia. I don't have a controller. Let me go find a controller. And then they have this Stadia controller that they get that says works with Chromebook. So then they buy that and they take it home. And next thing you know, they're playing, you mentioned earlier Cyberpunk 2077 or Avengers or on a Chromebook. That's a really, really compelling thing. And it's a way for Google to, I don't want to say advertise, but a way for them to capture a market that otherwise wouldn't necessarily be paying attention to this kind of thing.
Yeah, and it's ridiculous. Like Chromebooks, I bought a Chromebook for my daughter because we had one that I bought last year for schooling from home, but I was like, I don't want my kids to fight over this stupid laptop. I was looking at Staples of all places, and they had I think it's an Acer, I want to say. It was a $300 Chromebook on for $150, and I'm like, yep, sign me up. Picked it up. She loves it, and it also came with that 3 free months of Stadia because of the offers that are available through Chromebook, and you can play Stadia on it for $150. It's ridiculous, and you can play all these other things on it as well. It's such a cheap, cost-efficient way to get into computing if you don't just want a tablet or a phone. And having them focus on gaming is great, provided that all the stuff that is coming for gaming with the OS can be turned off before schools that have Chromebooks. If it's an easy way to turn all that stuff off, but then have it, maybe you can turn it on with different accounts or whatever. It's such a great way to get into and play games. The cheaper Chromebooks, unless you're wired, I've had issues with the Wi-Fi just not being strong enough, and having some like lurching and stuff on Stadia. But the one that I bought my son last year, or bought everybody last year, I played 5 hours, 10 hours of Stadia on it with zero problems. It's such a great platform. And this works with Chromebook stuff means that in the future, there'll be more than just the Stadia controller that you can use on your Chromebook. You can try all these other ones. They work. You can connect wirelessly to the laptop and then wirelessly from that to Stadia. Hopefully in the future, I think it's going to be a good thing for Google all around.
Absolutely. Moving on, Hotline Miami is arriving in 2 days on Google Stadia. Hotline Miami and Hotline Miami 2. Have you ever played these games, Lloyd?
Yeah, I played and loved the first Hotline Miami. It's a game that is more like a puzzle game. It's super violent. Like you basically are breaking into houses and killing all the people to steal money and drugs and all the other stuff. You're like a crime lord, or you work for a crime lord. And it plays more like a puzzle game than an actual action game, because you either quickly beat the level or you die. And if you die, you restart, and you're able to get back in and play it. I didn't like Hotline Miami 2 so much because a lot more stuff is happening off screen, so you can get shot by people that you can't even see, which sucks. But these coming to Stadia are going to be great. They're quick pick up and play games, easy to get in, play a couple rounds, and then move on with your life. So these are great pickups for Google Stadia.
Awesome. Real quick, I'm just going to mention that there's a couple of interviews for you guys to check out. One was an interview that we had with the developers for Outcaster. It's not like an audio interview. It was like we emailed them a bunch of questions and they emailed us back some questions along with some screenshots that they said were exclusive. So if you want to check that stuff out, go to the show notes and you can, I'm sure that you can find them over at runjumpstomp.com as well. There's also, and one of those official Stadia interviews with Crow Team, you know, it's always just kind of like, hey, how come Stadia is so great? And tell us why your game is awesome. You know, that kind of interview. But you know what? I'm really excited for Serious Sam. Is it 4?
4, yeah.
4, yeah, for Serious Sam 4. That game comes out on September 24th. Which is, you know, somebody had posted this in in our community Discord, link in the description down below. Just like it was, I don't know, it was like a 30-second clip of Legion mode in Serious Sam 4 where there were like thousands of things on the screen. And oh my God, that game is beautiful. Like it is gorgeous. Yeah. Like the sky, it looked absolutely amazing. Are you hyped for this game?
I've had a soft part of my heart for Serious Sam. Like this is a game back in the PC era where you had like 100 enemies running at you on the screen, and it's just like, oh my God, I can't believe there's so many things on screen at one point. And this was like in the DOS era. Like this is like way back in the days of like early Windows 95 or whatever, 95 betas or whatever. And the games themselves were always, let's take what is current in first person shooters and then let's just make it ridiculous. And the games have always been that way, except for maybe the third one, which kind of went out left field a little bit. The fact that this looks like a modern game with like 1,000 enemies on screen or 100 enemies on screen is fantastic. Like there's individual blades of grass, there's flowers, there's like all the trees, everything looks real. I can't wait to jump in and play this one when it comes out in like 4 days. It's ridiculous that it's here so soon.
Absolutely. All right, so that's it for the news for today. If there's something that we didn't cover, you can always get a hold of us on Twitter. And speaking of Twitter, you know, I asked before before we went live, I asked, what did you guys want us to talk about? So we'll check that out in a second. But first, let's take a quick break, and when we come back, it's crowd play. Save, and I'll put in the stream marker. All right. Here we go. Oh, let me save. All right, we're back. And while we were talking about stuff, we had a bunch of people who are supporting the show. You guys are absolutely fantastic. So thank you very much for that. We had Consino, J Dangle 25, and Deflem. They all sent in super chats without messages or with like the weird dancing pair or whatever, and we really do appreciate the support. So thank you very much. Ray Sherrod sent in a super chat saying that WWE Battlegrounds is awesome. So he agrees with you.
Nice.
And I like you said that you think that they nailed the price point on that, right?
Yeah, it's like $40. 30 would have been a better price for it, like half price of a normal retail game. But I think $40 is pretty decent for the amount of content and the fact that we're getting basically double the wrestlers added for free. You just have to buy them with the in-game currency. Okay. I think that's a pretty decent price point for it.
So then Anthony Talcott, thank you very much, Ray, by the way. But then Anthony Talcott sent in a super chat. He said, if the new Chromecast has a dedicated operating system like the Fire Stick, what features, UI fixes, etc. do you want that aren't on Stadia now? For me, a random game / team up generator button. Okay, so I don't understand what he means by team up generator, but a random game button, cool. That's a neat thing. What I would like is for it to be faster.
Yeah.
because it's obvious that the current Chromecast, the Stadia was shoehorned onto the current Chromecast because it
Yeah.
just doesn't have the horsepower. Like it can, you can play 4K games no problem, but when you bring up the menu, it is
Mm.
so slow and it doesn't have enough RAM or something like that. It just feels like crap. So
Yeah.
I do hope that that's something that gets fixed. What about you, Lloyd? What features do you want added to an actual Stadia UI on the new Project Sabrina thing?
I'd love for the Stadia interface to be more like a PlayStation or an Xbox interface where you have the game icons, you can move them around, you can put them in folders, you can organize things a little bit better. Just like in the web browser, if I want to play a game that I got when Stadia first launched, I'm scrolling down like pages of after pages after pages of games. Of course, I'm in a little bit of a weird place because we review so many games and I've bought all the games. Like I have such a huge Stadia library that getting to the one game I want is annoying. Search would be nice, but just having the ability to have a list of your games that you want to play and then folders for all the other stuff would be fantastic. Yeah, the interface right now on Chromecast is not so good. It's super slow. But like you said, it's a streaming only box, and then they had some sort of user interface put into it because Stadia needed a user interface.
Mm-hmm. I will say this, as far as features that I would like to see, and I'm just thinking outside the box. Like yesterday, I was doing our weekly Elder Scrolls Online raid,
Oh,
and
sad I missed it.
what? Yeah, I know we still survived, but we missed you. But we were doing the raid, and at the same time, Bethesda was doing some kind of, I don't know, some stream there where like you got some loot if you watch the stream, and they were talking about like their plan for the rest of the year and that kind of thing. And so I'm sitting here in my office, and I was playing the game on this screen, and I was watching the Twitch stream on that screen, and I was in Discord with our raid team. And you know what I would really like to have on Stadia is a picture-in-picture mode where I could be playing a game, and just in the bottom right corner or the bottom left, or wherever would make sense for the game, I could watch, I don't know, like Star Wars or something in the corner while I'm playing a game, especially for, a game like, I don't know, any kind of game that doesn't require me to pay attention to dialogue or
Uno.
something like that. Yeah,
Uno
like
would be
Uno
a
would be
great
great. Like,
usage for that.
I would love to see picture in picture on the new interface where you could just say, all right, I'm watching this, and now also launch Uno on Stadia, and I can play that while I'm watching.
Right. Yeah, that would be a really great interface. Would be really nice. I know Google wants to sell more of these guys because this is the best way to play Stadia. But I really hope that the ability to pair PlayStation and Xbox controllers to Sabrina is a thing, and
Yeah.
then the ability to then use them wirelessly to play Stadia and other games, because you probably are going to be able to download app like Android apps to that device and play games that way in the future. But it would be really nice if you could then I could use my Stadia controller and also all the extra PlayStation 4 and Xbox controllers I have in the house, so that I could do a 4-player game of Uno or WWE Battlegrounds without having to buy more Stadia controllers. That would be a really amazing new feature for this device.
And, people just said in chat, another awesome way to use picture in picture would be to watch Stadia Cast while you are playing Bomberman or something. So there you go.
Yeah, I'll tell you, Google. I'm going to give this to you. You can have it for free. Just link to our YouTube channel and put it as an icon on your new Chromecast, and we're fine with that. You can stream all of our content for free on the service that you provide to us, which is also free on the new Chromecasts, and we'd be okay with that.
Yeah, I would be definitely okay with that. We got a super chat during that conversation from Jem. They said, "I will take this time to promote Crash Bandicoot 4. He is incredibly not punctual. what's the thing where predictable. Like it
Predictable.
is like the sun coming up
Yeah,
that Jem is going to say something about Crash Bandicoot 4 each and every episode of Stadia Cast. So thank you very much for that. All right.
death,
Go ahead.
taxes, and Gem talking about Crash. Those are the three things in life you can just are there at all times.
That's right. All right. We've got just a couple of minutes left. Ruben DeJaling just said to continue the camera fund. Great content, guys. Well, thank you very much for the super chat. And maybe someday Lloyd will get another camera. But, you guys are awesome. We do appreciate it. All right. Before the show, I tweeted out. I said, Lloyd and I are getting ready to record Stadia Cast in less than an hour. What do you want us to cover? Joel Thompson said, can Google miss out on games like Hogwarts Legacy and still succeed? I'm going to give you my answer, and my answer is absolutely. There are so many games to play. You're not always going to have all of the games that you would like to play on the platform that you would like to play it on. But in the past, that was kind of a huge problem. Not really that big of a problem these days because there's just so many games to play. So I'm not worried about that. And sure, would I like to play, would I like to hang out in Hogwarts back in the 1800s with horse-drawn carriages? Sure. Am I going to buy a PlayStation 5 for that? No, because that's $500 plus the cost of the game. So probably not. What do you think, Lloyd? Can Google miss out on the games like that and still survive?
Well, if you look at the sales numbers for the Nintendo Switch, they set a record for the most money and the most number of units sold in August of all time in video games. The Switch doesn't have Hogwarts. It doesn't have any of the new Sony exclusives, doesn't have Microsoft exclusives, but it does have Nintendo exclusives. So I hope that we find out soon what's happening with Google's internal studios and what's coming from them. We know Serious Sam 4 technically, I guess now is an internal Google studio because Google bought some of that or the people. There's some weird stuff going on in the background there. But I want to know what Jade Raymond, I want to know what all the other stuff coming from Google is going to be, because if Google has a set of exclusives that are awesome, they don't need the Hogwarts. They don't need all these other games that are coming out, the EA sports games, all this other stuff, because they have their own content. Where it is on Stadia now, there isn't a lot of exclusives coming yet, and that will change in time. It took a while for the Switch to get exclusives other than Nintendo-owned titles from other companies, and that happens with new platforms.
Yeah, I don't personally think that. Absolutely, exclusives help 100%. I don't even think that Google needs exclusives in order to survive or to succeed, because it's really, you don't have to buy, like there's nothing to buy. You just buy the games. And so if there's a game that you want to play and it happens to be on Stadia and you want to be able to play it on your TV or your Chromebook, then you buy it from Stadia. And people I think that people forget that it's just a store. It's not a way of life. And, you don't have to buy in. Like somebody asked me the other day, they said, are you going to, oh no, I saw a Twitter poll. It said Xbox, PlayStation, or Stadia. And I thought, why does it have to be an or proposition? Maybe I can get an Xbox and still be able, well, no, I can definitely still have Stadia even if I buy an Xbox and even if I buy a PlayStation. I don't have to avoid those other things. My Stadia is not going to stop working because I bought an Xbox. There's not an either or proposition. But anyway, thank you for the question, Joel. I think it's a good conversation point. And
Exactly.
I would like to see Hogwarts on Stadia, but maybe it'll happen, maybe it won't. I don't even know who's WB publishing that.
WB, yeah.
Oh, we already have
games.
WB games on Stadia, so it's possible.
it's possible.
Yeah.
Ross Stevenson in the chat room sums it up just as succinctly as you possibly can. Exclusives bring people, and people bring third-party ports, and that's exactly right. If there's 1,000 people playing on a platform, no developer is going to spend time and money to make a game for that platform. But once your platform has 1 million, 10 million, 20 million people, that's when they say, okay, by default, we're going to port every single thing we make to that platform. So Stadia is not even a year old. It still has a lot of life ahead of it. So let's hope that we get a lot more people playing, which has those numbers, subscriber numbers go up, and then a lot more third-party developers and publishers want to bring their games to the platform, so that every new video that comes out has a PlayStation, an Xbox, and a Stadia logo, along with PC and all the other platforms as well.
You know, this is something that I didn't really think of, but Larry in chat just said this. He said, everyone has Stadia already, just not everyone is using it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, okay, people who live in countries that don't have Stadia, don't be mad at us for saying that. But everyone who, there are lots of people who have access to Stadia that just aren't using it. And I think that is a very good point. All right. One last comment came in from Sammy on Stadia. He asked, here's an interesting one. Would people be willing to pay a reduced price, like half the purchase price, to rent a game on Stadia for a week or two, much like renting a movie on Google Play or Amazon? This is a very interesting question. In the past, I probably would have said yes. But when I will not rent a movie anymore. I only buy movies. The rental price is always too much for, like, I can buy a movie for $20 or I can rent a movie for $5. And I feel like there's no incentive for me to rent a movie. But buying a movie, I will buy a movie, no problem. And I think it goes the same way with games. If I'm going to spend money on a game, I want to have that game. What do you think, Lloyd? Do you think game rentals is something that would really help a lot?
I think it would be interesting. Like, rentals were a huge part of the industry for decades, and then next thing you know, like, rentals went away. Every single video store went away. Every single just place where you could actually rent games went away. Having the ability to say, I want to play Assassin's Creed for a weekend, here's $5. That would be a great way to kind of change up the industry, and it would make it even easier for people that see an ad pop up on Google for whatever new game. It's like, hey, rent this for the weekend for $5, and you hit the button, you're playing on your PC for $5 or $10 or whatever that price would be. I think that could be interesting. I don't know if publishers would want to do that, just because a lot of games can be beaten in a weekend, and if you're only getting $10 or $30 from a customer instead of $60 from the customer minus the 30% cut of whatever the platform holder has, they would make less money at the end of the day. So I'd love to see it. I just don't think that would be something that would come up.
So huge thank you to Consino for sending in another super chat for the camera fund. That's you guys are insane. Thank you for the support. We really do appreciate it.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, as far as rentals go, it's not something that I would do, but there's probably a lot. I mean, the Redbox things here in the States, those exist for a reason, because there are people who want to rent stuff. So I forget often that not everybody will want to do things the same way that I do. All right, I think it's time for us to wrap up the show. Big thank you to everybody who did super chats or became members today. You guys are all fantastic. We really do appreciate it. Follow the show on Twitter at StadiaCast. You can follow Lloyd on Twitter at Dasme. That's DASME. You can follow me on Twitter at RunJumpStomp. And make sure that you tell us what you guys think of the show and what you are excited about for Stadia, because it gives us things to talk about each and every Sunday on our YouTube channel at 10 a.m. You can also join our Discord and keep the conversation that's happening right now. Like, there's been we almost got up to 400 people watching today.
Hmm.
And if those people joined our Discord, you could keep the conversation going. So there's a link in the description down below, or you can go to runjumpstomp.com to join the Discord, or you can also join Lloyd's Discord over at his website, which is res.tv. That's it for us today, Lloyd. I hope you have an awesome day, man.
You too, Bill. Thanks, everybody. I said it in the chat. You're all amazing. We appreciate all of you folks so much for spending a chunk of your Sunday with us. Just appreciate you all.
Bye. All right, there we go. Save. And you guys are awesome.
Yeah, I mean, you guys make producing content for a platform just so awesome. Just having the people show up, like even like when you're streaming for 10 people, it's awesome. When you're streaming for 400 people, it's like, oh my god, like we throw out an idea and it takes a life of its own in the chat, and we can feed off that. It just makes everything so much better. So yeah, I appreciate you fine folks.
That's right. And, before you leave, make sure that you do us a favor and click on the YouTube buttons, because they really do help. You guys are absolutely fantastic. All right. Do you want to just wrap things up and get to recording what we were going to record?
Yeah. So we're gonna record a multiplayer game of or multiplayer games of Uno, and that'll be coming out sometime today, hopefully. So if you
maybe
folks
I don't know if
what...
I'll have time to edit it today, but we'll have it out soon. Sometime
in the next week, you'll be able to see what Uno on Stadia looks like, and for $10, I'm enjoying my time with it.
It's really good. It's stupid and fun. I do wish that there's no way to play it multiplayer locally outside of, like, they have the ability for you and another person to team up against the AI, or team up against other players, but you can't play against people, and that's just because of the way the game works. I wish that there was a way to do that.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Well, I mean, think about it. It's like it's a card game. So if we're playing, you can see my cards, and I can see your cards. It would completely kill the fun of it.
Yeah, that's right. I remember playing like old football games multiplayer, and you'd have like button presses to choose your plays, so that no one could see your plays. But I remember even before that, you had to tell your opponent to, okay, look away from the screen. You'd hit a button, your plays would come out, you'd choose a play, and then it's like, okay, now I need to look away from the screen.
Right.
They could have something like that, but that would be terrible. Or yeah, Sammy, on Stadia, you need a companion app on your phone to show your hand. That would be a great way to do it. Actually, that would be a fun way to do it. But I never even thought about that, Bill.
Yeah,
the things you don't think about sometimes, you just assume that all that stuff is there, and it's like, oh yeah, that wouldn't actually work.
All right, well, everybody, thanks for hanging out. I think Lloyd and I are going to go. You guys stay awesome. See you, Lloyd.
See ya. Take it easy, everybody.